Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a nice Friday afternoon, and welcome to this session. So today we will be talking about AI for public sector, and more specifically, we will be talking about the AI journey that Flanders Investment and Trade has gone through, and how we at Radix help them do this. So Radix, for a reminder for the people who don't know, we are an AI agency. So we support our customers in finding AI solutions which are relevant for them, which can help them, but also design and implement them. And in general, we have a few steps that we take in every project. So as a first step, this is mainly for the project, the companies who don't really know which use cases they want to use, but they are interested in AI. We do a fast discovery. Then after that, we do an AI pilot, which means we do a small test on the data to see if it really brings value for the company. And once this is finished, we go on to an AI product. And so this product, we do it in an iterative way, in an agile way, to make sure that we really make a solution that fits the customer best. So I will be hosting this session together with Yves, who is working at Flanders Investment in Trade and Trade. So I will give the floor to him now to present Flanders Investment and Trade.
Thank you, Shoera. So indeed, Flanders Investment and Trade, who are we? We are a government agency for the government of Flanders in Belgium. Essentially what we do is we promote international entrepreneurship. And this boils down to three main activities. We try to attract foreign investors to Flanders. Say a Canadian company is looking to set up a new factory in Europe. We'll try to convince them why Belgium, and to that extent, Flanders is the right place to do that, just that. But we also support our Flemish companies in their going abroad, and we offer some small financial grants as incentives to this internationalization of our Flemish companies. Myself, I am a project manager at FIT, but I'm leading, together with a great team, the transition towards a data-driven government agency. But I'm also active in the field as an account manager for Israel. More specifically, on a daily basis, we try to, again, convince innovative startups from Israel to come to Flanders. But that's not why we are here today. We're here to talk about artificial intelligence. And my goal was to briefly give you an overview of the journey we've been through at FIT, and we are still going through, and perhaps even looking at the maturity of implementation of AI within our own organization. We can see different levels, going from the data foundation, moving to the cloud, integrating data sources, towards the most ambitious maturity level of having these unique algorithms in place, developed perhaps even in an open innovation approach. And for FIT specifically, I would say that we are mostly in the stage of AI cognitive services today and machine learning, where we not only use AI as a service solutions, but we also develop specific algorithms, specific AI applications, such as suggestion engines. Now, if I may be so bold, and before doing that, I see that we just launched a poll. I think it will always be interesting as a benchmark where you, as a participant, your organization, where are you at right now? Are you working with AI already? Do you have pilots in place? Or are you really at the early stage, or perhaps even the most advanced stage? Always happy to see those benchmarks. And going back to being so bold, I could perhaps even say that AI itself is the easy part, for us at least, where as an organization working internally, perhaps the most challenging aspect is the change. There's no one solution fits all when it comes to change management. But perhaps if we look at a famous model, the Lewin change model that's on the next slide, we can see that, okay, usually a change process starts with unfreezing your organization. You want to make sure that the perception is aligned for everyone on this change that you want to implement. You want to make sure the sponsorships are there. And on the next one, handling the actual change, structuring it, perhaps the most vital part, communicating about the change and making sure that all stakeholders are involved in the implementation. And when talking about implementation, I can see that already 32% of our 40% now of our attendees here today are already implementing AI as well. Again, going to this change model in the last stage of refreezing, as they call it, where you really want to go for the success, monitor the success of the change, internalizing it and making sure it's sustainable. That's all fun and games in theory. What did this mean in practice for FIT when unfreezing the organization? So when starting with these first baby steps into AI, we did also face, I think like many of us, some resistance to change. This could be in various aspects of management, looking at, okay, perhaps this AI, it could be a white elephant that costs a lot of money but doesn't provide a lot of results. There's this perception of, okay, AI is going to change my job. I don't want this. Or even more simple, where I don't need all this data. I don't need AI. I can trust my own intuition to take the right decisions in my business, which is in a large part true. But I guess in a world today where data is omnipresent, we can elevate this to a much higher level. So here we took an approach of really working with proof of concepts. And that's where the fast discovery track that Shoera outlined earlier was really instrumental. But then going to the next one of the change itself. So we have done these proof of concepts. We have proven the business value of AI applications by tackling some low-hanging fruit. Once this was done, we didn't just want to look at shooting at any application that has the label of AI and implementing it for being the sake of data analytics. So there we looked at, okay, we need a proper, sustainable strategy to implement AI throughout the organization, which we've tackled from an enterprise architecture approach, going through the different layers of applications, business processes, data, but most important, even people. And I've added a small thing on the slide here that I think would be very relevant for you if you are here as a representative of a government body, is the structural reform support that you can see on the right. This is an instrument from the European Commission that is specifically aimed at reforms in member states. So say you as a government want to tackle a certain change, a digitalization project, you should definitely have a look at this. They provided us with excellent expertise to formulate the strategy that we have in place today. And then finally, having done this convincing, having done the strategy, we of course need to implement, we need to anchor the strategy, and where on this aspect, we've gone for the development of specific roadmaps that have been ranked and prioritized towards business value and effort needed to implement. But also on the HR perspective, I think this might be familiar for anyone working in a government agency. It's not always easy to attract the best IT talent in the public sector. So the more we can reskill internally, the better. And also there, we took the necessary steps to make sure that this strategy can really be implemented. That's a lot of talk about FIT. Perhaps we should go back to Radix and more specifically this fast discovery that has been really instrumental in the initiation of our journey. Again, Radix did not only do this unfreezing part, they were also instrumental in the other stages, working with us through co-creation workshops. And even today, they are still a preferred partner when we develop AI solutions. So without further ado, Shoera, I'll hand the floor back to you to look more specifically into the fast discovery.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so now you have a high-level overview of the AI journey of FIT, but now we are going to dive deeper into it, explain to you how we work together in these different stages and what these stages really entailed. So we have talked a little bit about the fast discovery already, so some of you might be wondering, what does this actually mean? So what do we do? It's actually a kind of workshop that we organize where different stakeholders of the company for which we do the fast discovery are sitting together. This can be more technical people, but then also the business people, to have a really full understanding of what the company needs. And then during this workshop, we try to come up with business cases that might be interesting, and then we at Radix we put them within this diagram. So as you can see, we try to analyze the business value of the different cases that there are, but look at them also from a point of view like how complex are they to implement. So some things might have a really big business value, but if they are very complex to implement, it might take a lot of time and you will not have a lot of value from it very fast. So that's why we try to focus on these low-hanging fruits, high value but low complexity. They will give you a lot of value in a really early stage of your AI journey. And so this is also what we did with Flanders Investment and Trade. And so I think I will give the word back to Yves here to explain how you experienced this workshop and what came out of it. And maybe first show what your problems were.
Yeah, thanks, Shoera. And we experienced it very well. It were good workshops. And essentially, so again, we wanted some proof of concepts, prove the value of AI, identify this low-hanging fruit. We looked at several business processes where we could potentially apply AI just by intuition. And one that ended up as a final candidate was the domain of question answering. On a monthly basis, our colleagues worldwide are handling hundreds of cases of questions from Flemish companies or from foreign companies about doing business abroad. And we identified quite a few problems there where potentially data and AI could be beneficial. We saw that during certain times of the year, with high activity, there was a bottleneck causing some questions to take 2 to 3 weeks to being answered. We saw that some questions have a varying degree of complexity. There are many simple questions that perhaps have even been asked before. There are very complex questions that require a lot of research from our colleagues, research that is the best use of their time. That's where they can really prove their value from being in a foreign country. So many things that we can see, okay, we could perhaps using AI save a lot of time. Look, from the data side, these questions is a lot of textual data. Perhaps you can apply some NLP there. But before even diving into that, and I think we can skip to the next slide for that one, we mapped many solutions. We've been very creative, but I think 4 finalists made it to the cut, where we could, okay, perhaps we can build a chatbot. We can classify cases and emails relative to their complexity. But the one that won in the end, that was the least effort to implement, but with the highest value, was the question answering tool that we'll be showing to you today. And the ambition shown on the next slide was to develop a small widget that is shown, and here you can see a screenshot in just a part of our CRM system, which is Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics. We wanted our colleagues to see when they are handling a case, just a small widget on the right-hand side with relevant questions that are very similar to the one that's being handled right now, allowing them to open it and see, okay, this is basically the same question. I can just almost copy paste that one and boom, move on to the next one. Yeah, and that's the one that we went for. And maybe we can look into the specifics of that development.
Yep. So if you remember from the beginning of the presentation, I showed you the 3 phases. So the first phase was the fast discovery, and then we went into the AI pilot. And so this is actually where we are at this point in the story for Flanders Investment in Trade. So we have the idea of what we want to do, but now the next goal is to think about how will we do it, how will we get the highest value. And this is always organized with a proof of concept. This is very important because we really have to understand if we have the right data, maybe some extra data gathering is needed, but also to make sure that the results look promising. So this first solution, it's definitely not a perfect solution, but we really want to make sure that there is some value before we put some extra effort in it. So that's also what we did for this specific case. So we trained a simple model on the data FIT. It was only a couple of days of development. And then we directly checked with the employees what the value for them was of this tool. So we did 9 interviews with them, and we just asked them some questions and asked them to rate this. So this solution, it was not integrated within the workflow. This was just in an Excel sheet where they could indicate if the shown solution was okay for them or not. So there were no extra costs made in that domain. So we first really wanted to focus on the results. Since they were promising, we went on to the next phase, which was the AI product. And first I want to go into how we at Radix, we always work within the same framework, because this has shown us in the past that this will result in the best results. And also in this specific project, these 4 steps, they really come back, and we can really show you how we implement them. So the 4 pillars are understanding the end user, so making sure that we are really developing a solution for them that is working really well for them. Second is measuring and maximizing the impact, so putting some numbers on it and understanding where the problems are, and measuring the success. Also, we want to have a working solution from the start, and then iterate fast on the solution to make sure that we move in the right direction. So the first thing that we did was making sure that we had a working solution from the start. So this very simple solution that we had after the proof of concept, we directly put some effort in integrating this within the system of the Microsoft Dynamics. It was on a separate panel so that people did not have to use it if they didn't want to, because it was not completely finished. But by this, we could already gather some feedback. So I think this is the next slide. Yeah. So the employees really had the opportunity to interact with the tool themselves, test with it. And at this stage, we did another test where they could do it themselves, and not where we had to give them the model, but they could interact with it with themselves. And we did another round of measuring and maximizing the impact. So what did we do? We showed them some suggestions that we gave on the answers on incoming emails, and they had to categorize it, give a score to it, how well they thought that the suggestion was, and these were the results that we then found. So in 52% of the cases, there was at least one relevant answer. So that means that there are always 5 suggestions, that one of them is at least relevant, that he or she could retake some information to reuse. This means that in the other 48 percent of the cases, there was no good match. But here we have to say that in 29% of the cases, no good answer existed. So this means that it's about a new topic, or a very complex question or something like that. So not in all possibilities there is a good answer possible. And then after this, we focused on this agile development and this fast iteration. So we really wanted to improve this model, but we wanted to be sure that we would improve it in the right way, that it would bring the most value in the shortest amount possible. So to do this, we also asked the employees to not only score the suggestions that they got, but also suggest some suggestions themselves. So indicate to us which suggestions that they expected to see. And this, we could use this information to analyze why are we missing out on these suggestions. I'm not going to go into detail, so this slide is summing up all the categories that came up of why a suggestion did not come up, but it did teach us that if we focused on, for example, making the model multilingual, that there would already be a very large increase of accuracy. So that's why in this next iteration, we decided to focus on improving these, so making the model a little bit more complex, but also better, so it can also understand synonyms and not only the exact words if people are using the exact words. And that's what we did, and we put it in production again. And actually, this is where we are right now. So this we did another test to see how much that this impacted the solution, and we saw that there was actually a 22% increase on accuracy. So now we had 62% of relevant answers that the employees can actually reuse to answer new questions more rapid. So the solution that I just presented to you, it's now integrated, fully implemented. Of course, there are still some improvements that can be made, but this is an ongoing process like everything. There will always be new things to do, new things to improve, but we believe, and I think that Yves is agreeing with that this model is already a good beginning that is helping the people. So now we are in the phase, maybe it's better if Yves explains it on integrating it and making sure that people use it.
Yeah, so there we've implemented the solution. We've worked with a lot of key users who did the tests that you saw in the earlier slides. We've rolled it out to the entire organization. It's available to everyone, but of course you have to communicate a lot about it. And a challenge there is always the expectations, where I don't think you can ever expect from an AI solution to give you 100% accurate suggestion or answer in any case. There's always going to be noise in there, so we want to make sure that our employees understood, okay, this is something to support you. It will not replace what you were doing. It won't just automatically do the case that you were handling, but it's there as an extra insight. And that's actually been very good to also slowly introduce this concept where AI is something that supports you, where it's going to give you a dashboard of tools, a number of tools that you can use to do your job faster, more efficiently, or find more relevant information that is out there. And as Shoera outlined, there are still improvements to be made to the algorithm. We did the most significant ones before launching to everyone. And even now, there are the minor ones that we're looking to develop over time. There are some improvements towards the speed we can always do. But in essence, that's where we are at today. If you want, there's a small link also on this slide that you can always look at.
Maybe I can share it in the chat.
Yeah, great. Where you also find more information about other applications that we've built. This SRSP, Structural Reform Program from the European Commission that we've talked about earlier. So definitely have a look at that, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
So this was indeed the end of the presentation. Now we are open to answer some questions, and I think there are also already some questions in the chat, so we will answer these shortly. I only want to highlight that if you also have some questions after this presentation, or you want to talk to us to see what is possible within your organization, you can always already make an appointment to discuss possible opportunities through this link.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I didn't notice the chat, so there are indeed some questions, but I think they're mostly aimed at you, Shoera.
So the first question: did you make? Did Fit pay for the first proof of concept? Indeed, this is a paid offering, but we really want to make sure it's not just experimenting out of nothing. We really think about how we are going to do it. We present how we will do it, and then we see if Flunders and Investment agrees on how we do this.
Yeah, and perhaps also from our side, being the customer and having to pay, it's a small step. It's a small investment with large benefits, where this has been developed very rapidly. Essentially keeping the costs low, but with a high value, because in essence it's a low-hanging fruit, and it paved the way towards all the other stuff that we're doing surrounding AI today. So for us, it was definitely worth the shot.
Yeah, and I also think like if you have some ideas and you want to talk to us about this, we are always open for a first conversation, and these are definitely not paid. So it's only when there is like a real step that we are taking and we are implementing something for you. Up until that point, everything is for free. And then, do you use Scrum as an agile methodology? I have to be honest that I'm not sure because I'm not really up to date about the rules of all these agile methodologies.
Yeah, I think there we could look at the developers who probably worked in a very agile way with certain sprints.
Yeah.
And I think if we would have to say on what timeline this was developed, could we say a month, 2 months in total? Would that be too optimistic?
I think the original model was 5 to 10 days, and then the next improvement it was 20 more days
Yeah.
in total. Yeah. Of course, the integration took a little bit longer.
Yeah, and especially with integration from our government agency, we have other partners who work on the CRM system, so you have to work a lot together with other parties as well, which is not always easy, but you handle it very well. So we are happy on that side too.
So apparently it was Scrum.
Yeah.
We always work in sprints of 2 weeks, where at the end of the 2 weeks we present to the client the results that we have, and then we prioritize what we will work on next. So that's the way that we usually work. Are there any more questions?
It seems we have been pretty clear, I guess.
No problem, Paolo.
Okay.
All right, so I guess if there is no more questions, if you come up with any of them, please feel free to message Shoera and Yves in your own time. And of course, you can revisit the session with the recording. And now I can see that there's another question. Shoera?
Can these systems be categorized as AI? I think AI, from my perspective, is a very broad term that's being employed for many things. In the most high level, in the highest level, perhaps any system that shows human-like interactions is classified as AI. Here specifically, I'd say yes, because and Shoera, you can probably confirm this, is that you've used specific NLP algorithms in the domain of AI to find these relevant cases that are being shown to the user.
Yeah, I can agree that maybe the first model, it was also it also falls under the term AI, but it wasn't very complex. But that's also how always how we start. But the second model that we did, since it's multilingual, it's using the word embeddings to really understand words. We trained it on the data of fits to also understand the context of fits, special words that maybe in a normal vocabulary would not be used. They can still understand it. So this second solution is definitely an AI solution.
Yeah, and a good question, huh? Because I don't think you want to fall trapped to the hype, which why I think also doing these kind of discoveries is especially relevant to not just develop something random. This is something I can probably answer. So the experiment was not part of Sandbox Flanders. Basically, and also building to the relationship with the European Commission, the social reform support, The application we developed was done under the program of Vlaanderen Versneld, Flanders Accelerates, which was supported by the European Fund for Regional Development. This was in the stage of, okay, showing the potential of AI, developing some applications in practice. While then we didn't want to, so we've shown the business value of such applications, and we wanted to go to the next stage, to a full implementation of AI throughout the entire organization. And for that, we wanted a sustainable, a good strategy to do just that, for which we needed more expertise. So not on the development side, not building an application, but more building a strategy. What should we do? How should we do it? What should be prioritized? What should we do and what should we not do? And that's where the structural reform support came in. So this is really a strategic instrument that can help you by giving you access to experts who can help you develop a strategic reform. So I think most of us agree that, or at least that's what we are made to believe, and I've seen that in practice, that it's true, that AI is set to have an impact on your organization. It changes the way we do things, it changes perhaps even functions within the organizations. You need to create new positions, where for us, for example, we are creating a new position of CDO. All of these things is more strategic advice. And that's something that we've been able to get through that SRSP program. And I hope that's a clear answer. Okay, great. You're welcome. It's a new question by Atif. I can always give my insight, and then sure you can also do the same. Indeed, there are financial constraints. Resources are limited, and that's why we've chosen this approach of starting with proof of concepts, which are an inexpensive way of tackling some low-hanging fruits and some applications that show a lot of potential with a limited investment. Like Shoera said, our first development was only a few weeks to really have a simple algorithm in place that delivered value, that showed, okay, this thing works, and it's just not just an application that doesn't do anything, but that's nice to have. So I see that with financial constraints, these kinds of tracks like fast discovery are especially relevant to overcome the fear of AI, to overcome a lot of biases on AI, and to deliver value with a minimum investment.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and that's also the reason why we do these things, the fast discovery and the proof of concepts, to also make sure that you don't lose too much money if in the end it shows that it doesn't work out. You only have a small investment that is lost then, and why also we work in sprints. Because it has shown us in the past that this really makes sure that you get where you want as fast as possible, and as fast as possible also means having the least amount of investment you need to make.
Yeah, and then another question related to this is, of course, you can either go for this proof of concept, which you will try to develop in the most optimal way to, if it works, to afterwards implement it really in your business applications. Or you can take the route of immediately identifying a specific application, going straight to developing something that is set to go into production. But that's a more risky route. You would save a little bit of money from the start, but if you fail in this second approach, the money that is potentially lost is much higher.
And there is also still some value in this first phase, so it's not that you lose the effort that you have put into it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for this session, Shoera. It was very nice to learn about the project. I think everybody would agree on that. And thank you everyone for joining today. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask any of us, and also feel free to go check out the case study on the website. And hope everyone has a nice day.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Yes,
Yeah.
have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.